Hi, this is Damion Lupo, and you're listening to Black Belt Selling.
Welcome to Black Belt Selling with Stephanie and Anna Scheller. I'm Anna.
And I'm Stephanie.
We are a mother-daughter team who are passionate about helping you grow your business through sales and business coaching. On Black Belt Selling, we bring you amazing guests, and I continue to be amazed by the people who cross our path, like the guests that we have today, as well as content. Because you see, being a black belt is more than just reaching a level of skill. Being a black belt is an ongoing journey of growing, evolving, and to be honest, you never quite get there, but you enjoy the journey. Now, you want to make sure that you connect with us in our Facebook group. Tell them about our Facebook group, Stephanie.
Our Facebook group is just amazing. It is full of really cool black belts. We get a lot of our guests to come and join the group. So if you want to come and hang out with our guests, come join the group. You can get to that at facebook.com/groups/black belt selling. Super cool group, guys. We are pretty selective about who we let in. I mean, as long as you fill out the questions and seem like a cool person. We don't let meanies in. So if you're a meanie, don't apply. That's all I have to say.
Exactly.
So tell us about our guest here, Anna.
Well, our guest was, I met him through an interview service, which was really, really fun. And I don't always know how I'm going to, how we're going to get along. So we always meet with people before I schedule them for Black Belt Selling. And when Damion told me his story, I knew he had to come on Black Belt Selling. So he is a best-selling author. As a matter of fact, he sent us books, which I've only gotten through part of one, and I'm still like digesting this book. He talks about personal finance, money thinking. He's actually the host of the Transformation Nation podcast himself. And we didn't get much time to talk about this, but he's actually founded his own martial art called Yokido, which is a blend of yoga and Aikido, I think. It was a pretty amazing story to listen to him. He has a very unique approach to life. Wouldn't you say, Stephanie?
He really does. You know what blew me away is this guy comes on and he's super laid back and he's just sitting there and he's very collected and he's very chill and he's just talking and all of a sudden, about halfway through the interview, he just name drops someone that you and I have both known and looked up. He's like, yeah, I was on the yacht with Robert Kiyosaki the other day. It's just like, this is almost like when Ben Gay's sitting there going, yeah, when Dr. Hill used to work for me, like Napoleon Hill, like this guy, these icons, like it was really cool because he's super calm, he's super collected, obviously super freaking smart, and just, I was just really impressed with this guy. I don't even know how to sum all that up, but he really impressed me quite a bit. And not just the Robert Kiyosaki comment, although that kind of blew my socks off.
No, I think our listeners are really going to enjoy listening to him because he has a very different perspective on success. He has a mission to eradicate poverty in the business world. And so I think our listeners are really going to want to hear what this guy has to say, because this is a man who also suffered epic failure. You heard us talking about Miha Matlievsky. Now we're talking about another guy who suffered something very similar. So much so that when the IRS came knocking on his door for somebody else, he hid in the closet. No kidding, no joke. So you're really going to want to hear Damion Lupo, founder of Yokido and a master of personal financial success.
Welcome to Black Belt Selling. We see the Black Belt wealth. Obviously, we are all cut out of the same cloth. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, it's good to be here with you, ladies. Thanks for having me.
No problem, no problem. Well, for our listeners, we've actually been having this wonderful conversation before we started to hit the record button. And so I don't know, I guess we should maybe kind of start there. I've been reading, so what Damion does is he sends us his book. So I'm reading Reinvented Life. Stephanie happens to be reading the book about gold and silver. So this will be a very rich, no pun intended, recording. But we were talking about the process of transformation, because so many times people get into business or get into sales because they're looking to change maybe their financial situation, they're looking to change something in their life, and they look to business or sales to do that. What is, just, I don't know if you can do this in like a quick, to explain to people your transformation from, I'm going to use some of the words you used in your book, from a schmuck to who you are today.
I think you're being gentle, because I would have called myself a douche. I mean, that was pretty bad. It was terrible. I mean, it's true, and the way to reinvent is to be really is to be completely honest about what's true. That was the question I asked for 2 years. What is true? And that's what I came up with. And I went, okay, well, that's true. That's who I was. So do I want that to continue to be the case? And reinventing is asking that question. And then when you get down to the core and you really are at the truth, okay, where do you want to go from there? And most of us don't ask the questions, or we don't have anybody asking us the questions. We just look for the answers, but we don't even know. I mean, we're not even getting to the core to reorganize. We're just bouncing off the surface. So the hard work is asking the questions or having somebody help you. And that's what Reinvented Life was all about. I spent 2 years with a guy in Austin, Texas, asking one question every week. And that was, what is true? And we just peeled one layer after another. So you can find the answer if you're willing to do the work, and the work is a process of questions, or maybe just the same question over and over.
Over and over. It's amazing how the answer will change the deeper you dig and the more you allow yourself to be honest with yourself.
It is. It's like reading a book. I'm reading Brian Tracy's book, Eat That Frog, and I haven't read it in 15 years. And I'm reading it with new eyes. And I mean, old, bad, you know, the eyes I had before and then now. And it's kind of like in the martial arts world where you plateau and you just kind of, you ask that question or you do that thing over and over and over, and eventually you pop out of it. And that's what happened a couple of years in. I went, oh, and it was like this epiphany. But I had to stay in that process, and that's what most people aren't willing to do. They're looking for a hack. They've studied Tim Ferriss too much. I mean, I like Tim, but give me a break. Everything in life is not a hack. You got to be in this thing, right?
Thank you. I love that everyone's looking for the quick fix. I'm like, sometimes there just isn't a quick fix. Sometimes you just have to put some time and energy, and you know that old adage rings true. You know, you get what you pay for, and sometimes if you know, I believe you pay resources, right? So time, not just money. So if you pay 2 minutes of time, you're going to get what you pay for, type of thing. So I love that you just addressed that. That's
you know, that's like the steroids. You go into the gym and you pump yourself full of steroids, you're going to have a quick fix. You're also going to have a heart attack, or you're going to have a quick fail too. So you want something quick, you're going to lose it quick. You want to put in the time and build the muscle. And that's the entire process of financial freedom. It's building the confidence muscle. It's not about a pile of cash. I give you $1 million, you're going to lose it. I mean, literally, you're going to lose it in a week or a month or a year. If you go create it and you build that muscle around it, that's where you're going to be free, because nobody can take that muscle away. So that's the huge shift that people have to get.
Yeah, it's funny. So I'll see all those like questions of like, would you rather, you know, have $1 million or restart life? Like, you know, would you rather have, and I'm like, I don't want anyone to just give me, I used to be like, oh man, if someone just give me money, I could do so much with it. Right. And I've got to find, like, I don't want someone to just write me a check for $1 million because I have this feeling I would screw that one up pretty, you know, if someone gave me whatever, a lump sum of cash, if you haven't earned it, you just don't appreciate it. It's the guys, you know, here in San Antonio, we have a big investor network. So they'll get, like, the startups will get investor money. And then all of a sudden this, you know, CEO of the startup who got investor money is driving a Tesla. And we're like, what, dude? That's not where you were supposed to be spending that investor money.
That's typical. We get handed something and we don't have any connection to it. There's no relationship. It just bounces off of us. I mean, having too much money is as much or a bigger problem as having too little money when you're talking about business or investing. Like, overcapitalized businesses are dangerous because you buy Teslas and Herman Miller chairs and you get really high priced consultants instead of going out there and saying, okay, hey, market, what do you actually want? Let me deliver something. Let me serve you. And people don't do that. They go, oh, if I have a $10 million infusion from Goldman Sachs, then I'm good. No, you're probably dead in the water. You're just going to have some really shiny experiences for a year.
Yeah, you know, it reminds me of it's another Damion, Stephanie. You saw him recently. He wrote the book, The Power of Broke. And, you know,
Damon John.
Damon John. Okay, close. It was real close.
We're both bald. I mean, but he is black. So, I mean, there's a little difference. I mean, I love the guy, you know, but hey.
But I think, you know, that really begs the point of what I think is a really critical thing for us to talk about is you've done over 30 startups. And you've learned a few lessons along the way. And a lot of the people who listen to us are in business. They're in startups, or they're entrepreneurs or solopreneurs. I mean, even people in sales have to consider themselves as small business owners, because you are really in business for who? For yourself. For you're building your own. You're building your own business. And so, what are the top 3 things that you learned as a result of building over 30 startup businesses?
The first thing is you've got to have the truth coming back to you all the time. And the worst possible thing that can happen is whatever you're doing works up front and you don't have any humble pie, because you'll think that it's all you. And so having the truth where you're getting feedback from somebody else that's outside of you and your emotions is key. Having something that's driving you that's not just, hey, more money. Because I mean, I did that, and $20 million later, I was the biggest a-hole on the planet. And then I lost it. And the universe said, wrong mission. And I said, what do you mean? It's money. Well, that's not the right mission, period. That's a side effect. And the last thing is you really have to decide who the people around you are going to be and go into your work consciously around that. Because if you don't, you'll just absorb all these random people and you'll end up becoming a random version of you. And you may not like it so much. So those 3 things are key for any business or any investment you're doing.
Now, on that last point, you talk about the Bucky 5 in the book, Reinvented Life, the Bucky 5. And I know a lot of us have heard this before, but can we talk about that a little deeper, the Bucky 5? What is that?
Yeah, it's something that I think originally it sparked me when I read Jim Rohn. I studied Jim Rohn. So he was the first Bucky 5. He was like the Bucky 1. He was the guy that I listened to. He and Tony Robbins, and Jim Rohn was Tony's teacher for years. So I just listened to Jim and I absorbed Jim. And it was fortunate I had a little piece of decency from Jim, because Jim was a really, really great guy in every way. The problem was the other 3 or 4 people that I spent all my time with for about 10 years were really, really successful. They had lots of money, tens and hundreds of millions of dollars. They had castles and cars. And so I modeled them and became them. The problem is I became them. I became the ethics and morals, or the lack thereof. And I became the idea that the ends justify the means no matter what you have to do. And so that was the problem. I became everything about them because I modeled them so tightly. And I didn't realize that it's really important to look under the hood. You can't just do the surface, because if you do, you'll end up becoming under the hood. You may not like what you become if you're not aware of it until afterwards.
Yeah, I think consciousness is really important, being aware of where you're headed and you know, and surrounding yourself with people who are what you want to become. Now, you did that. You just didn't realize who they really were and what you were becoming.
Well, and that was because I was focusing so much on success versus fulfillment. I was focusing on the check boxes and the next $1 million and the next girl I could go out with and the next Ferrari. Like, all that stuff was the most important thing, instead of some mission that was outside of me, that was bigger than me, that was impacting and contributing to more than just my hedonistic tendencies. And that's what most people I see that are hustling. You know, as much as I love Grant Cardone's work and things, this idea that we're obsessed with hustling and just creating more stuff is a very, very dangerous activity, because it just creates a bunch of hedons. And I think that that's extremely dangerous. You wake up one day and go, wait, what was my life all about?
Like you did.
I did. And then you write a book and then you go, whoa.
Yeah, and then other people go, wow, honey, you have to read. You have to listen while I share this book.
If you survive it. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. That process almost killed me. So,
point. You know, at some point you're sitting there going, you know, if it's all been about money up until that point, like this is where I get people all the time who are like, well, you know, I just want to make a business. Actually, just made a post about this, about, hey, if you're just looking for the quick way to make money, get out of business. It's not the way that's not a good reason to be in sales. That's not a good reason to be in business. Like, you're not going to get that. Hopefully you're not going to get that. You're not going to get the quick fix, all of a sudden the shot of, you know, cash infusion, because it does bring out, I love this. My favorite quote's always been, when you get to where you're going, you're only going to be more of who you already are. And I tell people all the time, I'm like, so who are you today? Because when you get $1 million, if you have $100,000, you get $1 million, you'll be 10 times the person you are today. Do you want that? Like all of you, not just the good sides, but the bad sides too. And that's a hard one, I think, for people to wrap their head around.
There's also a really good question. I mean, these are great questions. And this is why it's so important to have a coach or a mentor, somebody that's asking you questions, because you're too close to yourself. One of the questions I love asking people is, if I hand you $10 million today, what do you do? And the instant reaction is, well, I would give this much, like a whole bunch, to charity. I would pay off my house, or I'd give my house to my mom or something. And I go, yeah, there's a reason you don't have $10 million. And they typically, because you're going to repel it. The other thing that people say, I would do something totally different. I go, so you'd spend your time differently? And they say, yeah. And I go, you know what's different about me? You give me $10 million, I hire more people for my mission. I'm not changing anything. I'm waking up doing the same thing. That's the difference with being on purpose versus running away from it. And this idea of getting to retirement and all this other stuff, you're wasting your life by not being on purpose. And it's a very powerful thing when you realize that and potentially shift it.
Yeah. Well, and I was gonna, I'm listening. I just totally lost the question I was going to ask. Dang it. But no, I think that's a big one. And you do talk a lot about wealth differentiation, the difference between money, wealth, a big paycheck. Can you kind of go into that one a little bit for some of our listeners?
Yeah, I mean, wealth is freedom of choice, and money is a tool. And so money can trap you. I see a lot of people my mission is to free 1 million people from financial bondage. And it's because money is shackling most people. It's not freeing them. Wealth will free you when you actually have that confidence, when you understand that you've got this tool, and when you understand that you can create it. And that's one of the things people think, well, if I just follow the rules and I save myself, I save all this money, and that's the key. No, it's not. I mean, my parents did this their entire lives. And I remember at the end of my dad's life, this conversation he and I had, when he said, there were just so many things that I wanted to do. And he had 3 or 4 weeks left of his life. And it's because money had been a trap. It had been shackles for him. It wasn't a tool it wasn't wealth. Wealth would have been him believing that he could create abundance. And so if you think that money, cash that you can just make up, that's being printed out of thin air, is actually wealth, you're mistaken. And you're going to be really, really sad one day to wake up and go, wait a second, I got tricked. It's not. It's the confidence. You have to focus on building the confidence.
Wow.
What's your best trick for that? Because that's something, just as a side, like we see a lot of sales reps struggle with that. We see a lot of business owners struggle with this confidence piece. I have one lady right now that I'm having read books and do some exercises because she struggles with confidence. So how do you get people to be confident? What are your tips?
Well, first off, we have to get to what's real. So one of the books that we talked about was my book on gold and silver. And it's a fascinating thing. Robert Kiyosaki talks about this. I was with him on a boat a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking about money, the different monies. We've got fiat money, this paper money that's just being printed, made up, and we all work for it, or most people work for it, which is nonsense because it's made up out of thin air. And then you've got God's money. You've got like gold and silver. And then you've got this crypto, which is like the people's money. So we don't know where that's going, but we do know that gold is real. And when you hold it, there's something that shifts about you because you're holding something that can't be made up. And I think one of the steps everybody can take is to get a little gold and silver and hold it. And it's not out of reach for anybody. You can get a gram of gold for $30. You can get an ounce of silver for $20. The point is that you're going to feel something. You're going to have a visceral, carnal, primal connection to something that's real. And it tends to create this magnetism where you go, I want to create more of this. It doesn't mean you're going to have a pile of gold. I mean, at one point I had a stupid pile of gold and I thought I was a pirate, but that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying just touch something, have that experience.
Head, right?
Yeah, totally. I had a big hat and, yeah, totally.
Pirate eye.
You don't look like Jack Sparrow, just so you know.
No, not the Jack Sparrow.
Not the Jack Sparrow type. Everything you're saying is so deeply profound. I just recently read a book. I read tons of books, love books. They're kind of some of my greatest mentors. So Damion, you have become one of my mentors. Thank you so much. And in this book, it's actually a book about what they call supernatural provision. And in the book, the guy says, stop working for money. Stop working for money. He said, realize that you have abundance. And so I'm working, I'm just understanding that more and more now. Just what you said about to get real and to come from a place of abundance. Like even if your bank account is looking like it's going to go in the negative today, you still have abundance, because that's not your true value anyway. The true value is deep inside. And when you come from that place, when you're in a sales conversation, when you're in relationships, that's a powerful place to impart. And then when you add the mission, the fulfillment, I love that word, fulfillment. Oh my gosh, if we saw our sales as fulfillment, if we looked at it like we are fulfilling people's lives, how could we change the marketplace?
You're hitting on some really core pieces. The challenge that I think sometimes people run into when they hear these ideas is they say, well, that's great, except I have $6 in my bank account. And so I'm poor and I'm working, and then they go, how do I switch this thing? And so there's a distinction between being poor and being broke. And being poor is a mindset. It's really who you are. And being broke just means, I mean, I've been broke. I've been upside down $5 million. That's pretty broke, but I was never poor. And so that's a big shift in mindset. The other thing is you have to ask yourself, am I working to serve? Am I working to grow? Or am I working to be a whore, like just for cash? And I think sadly, many people are just whoring themselves out, chasing cash. And we can feel that. Like if somebody's selling you or you can tell if they're serving you or if they're selling you, it's really slimy when they're selling. When they're serving, you're like, I love this experience. I want this thing because you are figuring out how my life gets better by doing this. It's a totally different energy. So when you shift, selling actually gets really fun and easy, but you have to have that service focus, and it has to be about them and not you. And that people don't get that because they're in a scarcity mindset.
They are. Well, and I think it doesn't help. We have a lot of sales managers out there that are putting a lot of high pressure on people to go out and sell. And I was actually chatting with someone just yesterday, and she said, I had this guy pitch this program to me. And I said, she said he was being really aggressive, wanted us to sign up now. It didn't make sense for it to sign up for another 3 months. And I said, she goes, it really was frustrating to me. And I said, well, you got to remember, he's getting a whole bunch of pressure from his boss to close the deal. And so we've got managers perpetuating this, like that sales manager can make a big difference if they would just change their perspective.
It is. It's being a servant and a leader in that capacity. That kind of pressure, it literally never ends well for anybody. It doesn't end well for anything. The company culture, if there's a mission, you can't build something that's based on jamming things down their throat when it's not right. But when you serve, it's amazing because there's this flow, which we see in martial arts, where when you let go of that tension and you start to become aware and connected in this relationship, things start flowing. You just go, where is all this money coming from? And I know people are listening going, that's never happened to me. It's because you're too tense. It's because you're trying to get things done and forcing it. Well, when you let go of the force, you start to breathe and you find all this power. It's amazing that the side effect of cash, of money, try it. I mean, just test it, see what happens.
It's interesting you brought up that particular point, because we're black belts, and the whole idea of tension. Some of the hardest people to train, and I'm sure you know this because you've got your martial art that you developed, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But if we have a moment, if not, then we are just going to have to bring you back, of course.
Have to have him back.
Oh, this is like, we've only scratched the surface here. But the hardest people to teach are the people who have bulk, the people who have strength, that they come in, and these are like my older men or older young men, that they come in and they're like, they try to power their way through everything. And what they realize is they're really exhausting themselves, which goes back to sales. When we're trying to power our way through sales, we're exhausting ourselves. And they're not being very effective, because when they're done, they've missed the target. Or if they've not missed the target, they don't have control anymore. And there's just so many parallels here. So many parallels.
Yeah, there's a big difference between true power and a force that most often people use. And there's a great book called Power versus Force. It's one of my
I've read
study
that one
guides.
too.
Unbelievable, because when you let go of the force, you start moving into a higher level of energy that has more to do with trust and love and connection versus these other really like sad kind of terrible emotions with justifying and antagonism and all those things. And you see those in the dojo, you see those in business. They're the same things. It's all the same. And so you know, going out there and building up the wrong muscle just so you can force your way, it's never going to actually serve anything. I think it's one of the weird things watching people in the gym. And the question is, why are you trying to get so big? I mean, what are you really trying to do? Are you trying to become powerful or force your way onto the world? And I think people aren't really asking the right question. They're just over there doing a lot of reps.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just
You know,
execute. Eventually we get results. That's what we've been
Mhm.
taught, is execute.
Mhm.
Just keep executing sooner or later. Instead of sitting down and looking at, okay, what's the end goal? We've been told, you know what, just hit your numbers. If you hit your numbers, you'll get there. You'll be fine. You'll be fine.
Yeah, where are we going to go? I mean, you hit the numbers and you're going to get there. It's like I hear people saying a lot, hey, I'm making progress, I'm moving forward. I go, are you moving in the right damn direction? Like, how do you know you're making? Yeah, you're making progress, but you maybe going the wrong way, 180 degrees. So when I hear that, I think it kind of startles people so if you think you're making progress and you're going somewhere, great. Where are you going? Is it the right place?
Oh,
How do you figure that out?
And this is where you have to really dive down into your values and your mission, because if your mission is there and it's your North Star and it's guiding you, it's actually bigger than you, then it's fairly easy to understand when you wake up in the morning and you can't wait to get your life going. It's different than just saying, okay, I'm going to go pound on people today. That is a totally different experience. So if you're just out there to pound people and drill the phones, time for a pause. Ask yourself, what's pulling you? Do you have a North Star, or is it like Damion in 2005, more money? I mean, trust me, it's a deal ender. It's a game over. Eventually it will kill you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, we're coming to the end of the interview. There's, so many more questions. But we do have to somewhere decide that. We'll bring you back. But my last question for you, Damion, is now that you've been through all these experiences, now you have all this insight and wisdom, and of course, being where you're at, I know that you're also realizing that there's more to be gained. But what would you say to yourself now, looking back, talking to younger self?
Fail faster. It's really that simple. It's instead of this idea that the failure is who we are, that it's a noun, it's truly a verb. I was in Africa not too long ago, and there was a lady right before me on this tour, and my game warden said, okay, here's the deal, guys, stay in the Jeep. And we said, look, that makes sense. He goes, no, seriously, a lady before you got out of the car, and we weren't here, but she was with some other people. She got out to line up the cubs because they weren't organized right for her photo. So she went out, and then Mama came over and ate her, killed her. And he said, don't do that. And so I go, oh, so there are places in the world where you can actually be eaten. The problem is we tend to think that everything we do, if we fail, we're going to be eaten. Well, that's a primal instinct, which makes sense in Africa. But if you're out there thinking, if I try something, something's going to eat me. Well, I grew up in Alaska. It could happen in your front yard in Alaska too. But other than Alaska and Africa, you're not going to be eaten by the failing process. That's how you grow. That's how you build that elusive muscle we're talking about. So fail faster. That's what I would tell myself. Go out there, fail faster, get somebody to kick you in the butt so that you can grow faster. So at the end of your life, you don't go, dang, I missed it. You go, holy crap, that was amazing.
Wow.
It's so funny. I've heard that answer from so many brilliant people, and I think it's one of those things that's slowly sinking in because everyone's so scared of failure. But that's just awesome to hear that someone in your position's like, you know what, I would go back and fail faster.
One of my values, one of my 6 values is 10x. It would be literally 10 times as many failures. And what are we afraid of? We're afraid of judgment or I mean, really, it comes down to a lot of judgment. It's like, okay, who's going to see us and who's going to judge us? Nobody cares. They're too focused on their own damn lives. Like, give me a break. Nobody is paying attention to your life. You trip over a curb, you look around, you're trying to figure out, oh, who just saw that? Man, everybody else is tripping on the curb too. You just don't realize it because you're focused on you tripping on the curb. Give me a break. Let go of that ego. That's what's driving you and it's keeping you trapped.
So, oh my gosh. Whoa.
Davey,
I'm
this
like,
is awesome. This is really awesome.
Let me get you back. Oh my, this is amazing. So Amazing.
Thank you.
How can people, because first of all, I personally want to let our listening audience know this book, Reinvented Life, is a must read. It's important to understand. I mean, it's not just Damien's story about failure. It's about how do you walk out of it, how you did. And I love how you spent 2 years asking the same question over and over. What is truth? But for people that maybe want to learn more about you, Damion, what should they do? Where should they go? How can they find you?
Well, the best thing you can get from me is questions that I've struggled to come up with and that I'm giving. There's a lot of questions in that book. There are money tools, and those tools are on my website on DamionLupo.com. It's really just, it's questions, because you have the answers. Like, nobody has the answers for you listening, watching right now. They're in you. The question is, what is the question? And that's what I'm there to give you. It's the questions, because I trust you to find the answers inside. And maybe I'm just there to trigger those answers, but they're inside you. So if you go to the website, you'll be able to get all sorts of tools and workbooks and things with a lot of questions. And then that's when the work starts.
Awesome.
Nice.
Awesome.
I love it. Well, as usual, for our listeners, hop on over to the Facebook group. We'll give you that link in just a minute here, and make sure that you go over. Look, I always remind people, you got to take action on this stuff. You can hear it and hear it and hear it, but you got to take action on it. So looking forward to seeing you guys in the group. Again, Damion, thank you. This was fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much, ladies. It's been a pleasure.
You know, Stephanie, Damion, he just had so much wisdom that I took a lot of notes, but I think the one thing that really stuck out to me is he said that the hardest thing to do, and I'm finding this is becoming a theme in all of our black belt selling, is the hardest thing to do is to ask the right questions.
I asked the right question. Yeah, like, so how many people have we had that have mentioned something like that over the past, 3 episodes, all 3 of them? And all these guys have sold millions of dollars worth of deals, I think they've all sold easily 8 figures, if not 9 figures worth of deals. And every single one of these guys is sitting here saying it's about the question you ask. Like, okay, guys, if that doesn't tell you something, okay, I'm a little hard-headed, but even I can see the light at this point.
Well, and the thing about the questions is we have to be willing to ask the questions that we may not want to hear the answers to. This man spent 2 years when he suffered failure, where he went into bankruptcy, where he went into foreclosure in real estate deals. He spent 2 years asking the questions, and the key question he asked himself is, what is true? What is true? Because I think sometimes we fool ourselves into believing that something is true when it may appear to be true, but it's not true. It's not the truth, right?
Yeah, well, and what I liked was he spoke about how he not just asked that question once or twice or 3 times or 4 times, but he spent 2 years asking the same question and peeling back layer after layer after layer after layer after layer to get, I mean, that to me, that said a lot. That you can really dig into. And I love how he came out of that soul searching period, realizing that it has to be about something bigger than the money. The mission has to be about something bigger. It has to be about a bigger mission, I think is how he put it.
Yeah, and let's think about it. So many people, when they see success, they look at success as a number. They look at success as the size of a company. They look at success at how many people are in their database, blah, 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 blah. But the thing that we have to realize is that success, and he mentioned this, there's success and there's fulfillment. And for him, fulfillment, he was told that a billionaire is not a person with $1 billion. A billionaire is someone who has reached 1 billion people. A billion people.
Cool. Yeah. And made an impact in their lives, not just reached, but made an impact. Like, that is the new billion. It's interesting because, they actually say that once you make more than about $70,000 a year, your life does not change pretty substantially. And it's funny how person after person, once they reach a certain level of success, their focus stops being on the, I know a lot of the wealthy people get a lot of bad rap for, well, why don't they share the wealth? Well, in a lot of ways, they really are. They really are redistributing and helping. I mean, I have yet to meet a truly wealthy person who is sitting there hoarding it and keeping it all for themselves and not redistributing through creating jobs and helping other people out and trying to make an impact on the world. Really, truly trying to make an impact. I talk about this all the time with people, with business owners. I'm like, what's the mission of your business? Because if your business, and I remember I had one person who just kept coming back to me saying, well, my mission is to make money. I was like, nobody is going to give you money because you want to make money, sweetheart. Like, that does not work. No, how many of you guys, let me put a post on Facebook. How many of you guys want to give me money just because I smile cute? Like, that doesn't happen. No one gives you money because you want money. You have to fill a greater need, a bigger need. So that to me was, I loved hearing that from him.
It is. And, and the mission has to be in service. We were not created to live unto ourselves. We are created for a purpose, and that purpose is to better the lives of other people. For Damion, it was about eradicating financial illiteracy. He is passionate about that, and if you read his books, you'll understand that. Now, he talks a little bit about money, and we definitely want you to go back and listen to that about gold and silver. But poverty is a mindset. Being broke is a statement of your bank account, but poverty is a mindset. And you want to be focused on your mission and on fulfillment. Because if you can wake up in the morning and go, yes, I can go help people, that's a far more powerful motivation than, oh, let me go see how many sales I can make today.
Right.
The motivations are so different. The energy is different. There's power in mission, there's power in fulfillment, and I think Damion brought that very clearly, and we just had such a great conversation with him. We really, really did.
He really did. And I love that he mentioned the whole fail faster thing, as we've been talking with Mihail, in the last episode, and he said, you asked him what's your one thing you would tell yourself, and he goes, fail faster. It's just like, and then he followed it up with pain is a powerful teacher. The quicker you start failing at stuff, the more it hurts, the quicker you learn not to do it. I mean, if you ever stuck your hand on a stove, you learn to never do that again. Like one time, this was not a moment of having to, like sometimes we do stuff, we have to do it 5 or 6 times before we figure out it didn't work. Like you stick your hand on the stove, you don't have to do that one again. There's a lot of pain. It's a very powerful teacher. And I love that. He said fail faster, but remember that the pain is a powerful teacher. And that really is stuck in my head since we did the interview.
And when you are in a position where it's hard to see the benefits of moving forward, let pain be your motivator till you can see the benefits of moving forward. Because sometimes it is difficult. We understand that. You and I have been there. You and I have been there multiple times. I mean, just because we run this podcast, just because we're out there helping people, it doesn't mean that we have our act together. We're black belts just like everybody else, and we're still growing and learning, maturing, becoming wiser. As a matter of fact, we've not even been at this 20 years, and so we're still considered novices by some people. So, we really want you, if you resonated with Damion's message, then we want you to go to DamionLupo.com. Go visit him there. He's got resources that you can tap into, but most important, he's got a mission. He's got a passion for helping people grow in their finances. And if that's an area you struggle with, then we encourage you to, I'll tell you what, join our Facebook group, and then you can meet Damion there, because we would love to have you join our Facebook group. Go ahead, go to facebook.com/groups/Black Belt Selling. Ask to join, become part of our community where we're learning and growing together.
We're sharing content. We're making it fun. Look, as Zig Ziglar said, motivation is like bathing. We recommend you do it daily. So fill your newsfeed with something positive for a change, right?
Exactly.
In the meantime, go out there, guys. You have another amazing week ahead of you. Spend some time this weekend asking yourself, what is true? And, where can you fail this week? Where can you screw things up? Maybe not on purpose, but where can you fail so that you can learn from it and you can grow? Because the faster you fail, the faster you get to go, I guess, hang out on a yacht with Robert Kiyosaki. In the meantime, guys, go out there, make it a great week. I'm Anna here for Stephanie, and this is Black Belt Selling.
No, you're Stephanie here for Anna.
Right, that one, the other way around.
Make it a great week. Take care.